in the foster care system. And so growing up, I got to hear a lot of children's stories, and my mom was constantly trying to bring kids home with her. We grew up in a predominantly white area, and so there was mostly white potential adoptive parents, which meant that mostly white kids got adopted. Even when my mom tried to place minority children in white homes, the judges were less likely to approve of those adoptions. And this left a lot of minority children without loving homes. So everyone needs a place to call home and a family who loves them unconditionally. And every child deserves that, regardless of race.
Race should not be considered during adoption, in order that more minority children will find loving homes, and it will promote equality in all children and families.
Race-based adoptions prevent many minority children from finding homes, should be considered unconstitutional, and transracial adoptions often promote equality.
Race-based adoptions cause more minority children to age out of the foster care system. According to a report by the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies Health Policy Institute, in 2005, African American youth made up 32% of the foster care system, while only making 15.5% of the overall youth population. This means that proportionately, that's 2 times as many African American youth in the foster care system as in the overall population.
A recently uplifted ban in the United Kingdom barred one race from adopting a child in need from another racial group. The Telegraph reported that bans on transracial adoption mean that multiracial children will wait 3 times longer to be placed. Our opponent has told you that the cultural identity of a child is essential to their well-being. Is it not more important for the child to have a stable and loving family than to have the correct cultural identity? Every child deserves a loving and stable home, and race-based adoptions prevent this for many minority children.
Due to the interracial adoption ban in the UK, in 2011, only 53% of children who remained in foster care graduated high school. Only 1% went to a university, and 23% became prison inmates. Not being adopted causes a long-term trauma in a child's life. They don't have that support system to lean on if they have a problem or if they need encouragement. These long-term effects are more detrimental to a child's well-being than having a correct cultural identity or racial bullying, which might have even occurred regardless of if they grew up in an interracial home. So overall, race-based adoptions prevent children from having the loving family that they deserve, as well as being unconstitutional.
Adoptions based on race should be deemed unconstitutional because of the laws set out in the Equal Protection Law in the 14th Amendment. An article by the lawyer Colin Schluter in the William and Mary Bill of Rights Journal outlines how a child could utilize the 14th Amendment in order to fight against a parent who did not adopt them dependent on their race. The 14th Amendment states that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. In this case, the state adoption agency would be the government party that would be denying equal protection of the adoption laws. Also, the Inter-Ethnic Placement Act prohibits the denial or delaying of adoption due to race. Essentially, the adoption agency, by allowing parents to choose to not adopt a child based on their race, is breaking these set laws.
In 1990, Ben and Laurel Reisman applied to become foster parents in the state of Tennessee and were approved. They were then given temporary custody of a little girl. They were both Caucasian, and the little girl was biracial with one black and one white parent. When they expressed interest in adopting the little girl, they were told by the Tennessee Department of Human Services that the preferential placement of the little girl would be with a biracial family or with a black family in the event that a biracial family was not available. The Reismans then brought a case against the Tennessee Department of Human Services using the 14th Amendment as the basis of their argument by saying that by denying them to adopt the little girl based on their race, they were denying the little girl's 14th Amendment right of equal protection of the law regardless of race. The court ruled in the Reisman's favor, and they successfully adopted the little girl and named her Caddy. Today, Caddy has a degree in graphic design and owns her own photography and graphic design business. So, race-based adoptions deny children and families their equal protection under the law.
Interracial adoption promotes equality in the home and in society. Everybody went through that phase in 3rd grade when they weren't invited to somebody's birthday party. It started leading you to question if it was something you did or maybe the way you looked. Interracial adoption works the same way. If a minority child is not chosen to be adopted or specifically chosen against, it leads them to question if what they look like is wrong, which is not true and is essentially against the law.
Trevor Phillips, who is the chairman of the Commission for Racial Equality in the UK, stated, "If I had ordered an inquiry, an investigation, it would have shown pretty clearly that the life chances of children would have been much better in a family of any race compared to staying in." Our opponent will tell you that placing a minority child in a home of another race will make them lose their cultural pride and their self-esteem. But there's no hard factual evidence that that's accurate. There's only speculation. And in that way, their heritage is not more important than their overall well-being and quality of life, which would be vastly improved by being adopted. So any culture really is better than no culture at all, which would be the case if they stayed in the foster care system.
In a transracial family's trip to the park, their son Kembe was cornered by a bunch of kids who asked him questions and were concerned as to why he did not look like his parents. They said things like, "No way is that your real mom," and one girl even went on to say that it was nice they had taken him in because orphanages are a bad place. The real clincher comes when one of the kids states, "I could tell that something was wrong. Something was not right about that." Kembe's parent then goes on to tell the child, "There's nothing wrong. It's different, huh? Most families match and we don't, but it's different. It's not wrong." The parent then goes on to continue in the article how parents need to educate their children on adoption and explain to them how every family is different, which in turn will cease negative reactions most adopted children receive. What is most important is the education of the following generations of children to become more accepting of families that are considered different.
If you went to adopt a Labrador Retriever and you told the breeder that you only wanted a yellow lab and you would not have a chocolate or a black lab, no matter the personality of the dog or the training, they would not give you that animal because you were looking at the physical appearance of the animal rather than anything with its mental well-being. This is the same for interracial adoptions. If you are looking at purely the skin color of that child, then you are going against what needs to be done and you are not giving them the opportunities that they deserve. If we become more adaptive in our society and our family patterns, we are more likely to have equality in our society in the future.